we got 256 regular season games that are now set in, I don't want to say stone. Any other year they'd be set in stone. It's some kind of a thick parchment this year. It feels permanent, but we know that there's the potential for it to potentially change. We'll talk about that as the day unfolds. For now, let's celebrate what we have, and what we have is 256 regular season games, and it starts with week 1 right out of the gates, Big Cat. I don't know if you saw the reports. There were plenty of different people suggesting the first 4 weeks were going to be all the interconference games so they could be easily trimmed off if need be or moved to the end of the season. The NFL comes out of the gates with not a bang, an explosion. Week 1 has 9 divisional games. That's the most since 1998. And I love the Week 1 slate. I'm fascinated by the Week 1 slate. They held nothing back in the week that, they could have given us the 16 worst games of the year, whatever they are, and we would have loved it. But they come out swinging with some great games right out of the gates.
Yeah, it's just looking at the schedule right now. I mean, it starts. I will say I would love to hear your take on this, but the Thursday night opener, obviously, it's going to be the Chiefs, and we are hoping for a replay of that Texans-Chiefs playoff game last year where there was 1 million points scored. It's just a little weird to remind yourself that DeAndre Hopkins is no longer on the Texans. Changes things a little bit, but I love the Week 1 slate as well. You have the Packers versus Vikings. That Sunday night game is going to be great with the Cowboys opening the new stadium in LA is going to be a fantastic thing to watch. And then the double Monday night header is always, I wish they did it every single week because it's great to have 2 games and have that late game. But that first game, the Chiefs raising their banner, kicking off the season, the Texans going in there, it's going to be fascinating because even though that was a compelling playoff game last year and we saw the Texans go up with that big lead, and everyone wants to watch Deshaun Watson, it's the Texans feel like they're teetering right now with what happened in the offseason and where Bill O'Brien is going with that team, whereas the Chiefs feel like they're not going to miss a step. They didn't really lose much, and they added one of the best running backs in the draft class, or the best running back in the draft class. So I feel like the Chiefs are going to have a heck of a party on that Thursday night, probably blow them out. But it will be great to have football back.
First of all, it's easy for you to say you'd like to have a Monday night doubleheader every week because you don't have to get up and do this show on Tuesday mornings. I can't imagine a Monday night doubleheader. I would like it in theory, but I know how tough that first Tuesday is, and I know we're not supposed to complain, but I'm telling you, that first Tuesday, I got nothing left in the tank because it's the first Sunday and all those games, and off we go. And then to have that Monday night doubleheader that lasts until after 1 a.m., often what I end up doing is just taping the second half of the second game because I got nothing left by then. So it is great to start with a Monday night doubleheader. I am not, of all the things I'm going to lobby for, a Monday night doubleheader every week is definitely not one of them. But the idea of the Steelers and the Giants, 2 of the NFL's most well-established franchises, family-owned, there's so many connections between the Rooneys and the Maras, and the idea that they get together once every 4 years, and there it is, boom, starting us off on the first Monday night of the year. Again, they could have held these games back. They didn't have to give us that. They could have given us Jaguars-Titans Monday Night Football, and we'd have been happy with it right out of the gates because we want anything now. That's what I love so much about this Week 1. And you mentioned the opener, the Texans and the Chiefs, and you're right how the perception of the Texans has changed since DeAndre Hopkins was traded. Look at any prop that's out there from a betting perspective. The numbers for the Texans plummeted the moment they traded DeAndre Hopkins. It's amazing how the lack of Hopkins changes everyone's perception of the Texans, but it just does. Maybe they'll be fine. Maybe they'll figure it out. Maybe Brandon Cooks will be great. But you take DeAndre Hopkins off of that team, and all of a sudden it's like, what the hell do they have? Other than Deshaun Watson.
He's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, he might be if you wanted to predict where he is in the arc of his career, he could be on the other side of the peak being 2 years ago, but he is still a top 5 guy. And that offense, watching that offense, Deshaun Watson is a quarterback that keeps a lot of plays alive. And a lot of times when that happens, you need someone like DeAndre Hopkins who you trust to not bail you out, but kind of bail you out in those tough situations where everything breaks down. So not having him is going to be a huge impact. And it just takes away a little of the firepower. It takes away a little of maybe the splash of that opening week. I just think the Chiefs are set up in a position where they didn't lose pretty much anything, and if they can avoid the big injury to one of their key guys, it's going to be tough to beat them because they are that good when they're healthy. And if it weren't for Patrick Mahomes hurting his knee last year, they probably would have won a couple more games, and we'd be talking about them starting a long run here.
And I am fascinated also, Big Cat, by the fact that the first week of the season doesn't shy away from states where right now we would say, how are they going to be able to play games? How are they going to be able to play games in California? Well, the LA Stadium opens with the Cowboys and the Rams. Remember that preseason game when the Rams returned to LA, when the Cowboys went to the Coliseum, and it felt like a Super Bowl that night? I mean, you talk about the Cowboys and the Rams to christen that new stadium. Pandemic be damned. And then the Giants with Monday Night Football hosting, and it's New Jersey, it's not New York, but still in that area emerged as the biggest hotspot in the country. The idea that the NFL would plant a flag in New Jersey for Week 1 Monday night, given everything that's going on, I think that and we're seeing a little bits and pieces of this now, and it's starting to come to light. And I wrote about it over the weekend. There is a high level of confidence behind the curtain that they're going to get these games in, that the world is going to be dramatically different. You and I communicated about that over the weekend. The world is going to be dramatically different come August, September than it is now, and it's hard to get our brains around it now. But I think this schedule, especially the way Week 1 is constructed, is the NFL's way of saying, hey, folks, it may not look like it now, it may not feel like it now, but by the time we get to Labor Day, we have a feeling, and we have reason to have that feeling, that things are going to be a hell of a lot different and a hell of a lot better than they are now.
And I appreciate that optimistic view from the NFL, because there has been points in the last month and a half where it feels like nothing's ever going to get back to normal, and nothing's ever going, sports aren't going to come back. We're not going to be able to go back to our regular lives. And I'm all for following every single guideline, but it is nice to see at least the optimistic view of the NFL's not saying right now we're playing 100%, but they're saying we're going to plan like we're going to play, because we're going to hope that everything works out and falls in a row here leading up to it, where we can get, players back and possibly even fans in the stands.
Yeah, and look, I still don't rule out the possibility of open stadiums. I know some comments from Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, yesterday, threw a little water on that concept, just water on the concept of NFL teams playing at all. We're going to talk about that later in the program. But part of that optimism that I picked up very clearly last week, talking to people who know what's going on, talking to people who understand the medical and the scientific aspect of the pandemic, the explosion that is anticipated in diagnostic testing and antibody testing, that is the key. These tests are going to be falling off the trees come August. People are going to know. If they want to know every day, am I positive? It's going to be easy to take a test and know, have I had it? And also understanding what it means to have the antibody. By September, we'll know a lot more than what we know now. There will be so many ways that we can constantly check, and I feel like it's going to be part of our routine, like shaving, although you don't shave often enough to relate. I shave every day, although you shaved recently. But, it's just going to be part of what we do. A quick, every morning, every night, a quick coronavirus test, especially if we've been out anywhere. If you stay home, you don't need to do it every day. If you go out and about, am I positive? Am I positive? And you keep getting that go to a game, come home. Am I positive? Am I negative? And I think that's just going to be our reality. When you look at how much our reality's changed the last 6 weeks, it's not all that hard to envision a dramatic change in a good way, a way to exist, to coexist with this virus. That's what they think is coming. And I'm not saying it's specifically going to be like that, where it is like you shave, you brush your teeth, you do a coronavirus test, but I have a feeling it may be that way. Based upon everything I'm hearing about how prevalent these tests are going to be, it may be that way. I mean, Band-Aids are prevalent now. Anytime you need a Band-Aid, you have one. It's going to be kind of like that. And you're going to get a box of coronavirus tests like you get a box of Band-Aids. I think that's what it's going to be like come Labor Day. That's what makes it easier for the NFL to play its games.
Yeah, and positivity and hope are not a bad thing here. That's really what I've been trying to preach. I'm not gonna say, join the protests that are getting out in front of everyone saying we need to reopen the country right this second. But positivity and hope that the NFL season will go as scheduled is not a bad thing, and I think that it's a lot for a lot of people who love sports. This is what they kind of need to feel like we're moving in the right direction, and these baby steps matter. I've said it before. I need a pat on the back every now and then saying, hey, you're doing a good job by staying at home. Positive reinforcement. I'm like a dog. Just give me that little pat on the top of the head, and I can keep doing the tricks that you need me to keep doing.
And the balance this is the last point on this because I want to focus more on the schedule today, but the balance is respecting the virus and finding a way to coexist with it. Not just run out the door and act like it's fine, right? When I was a kid, there was a dog at the end of the street that would have bit me if it could, and I knew how to coexist with that dog. I knew how to stay away from that dog. I knew the dog was there. I never acted like the dog wasn't there. And I got to a point where I accepted it. And the dog and I had an understanding, and I stayed the hell away from the dog. You can't just act like the dog, i.e. the virus, isn't there, but there is going to be a way to coexist with the virus. And the NFL is confident we're going to be there come September. The Chiefs' schedule, let's look at this very briefly here. The Chiefs' schedule has some great quarterback matchups, assuming everyone stays healthy. And the deeper we get into the season, the more I get concerned that one of these guys is going to be injured. But Patrick Mahomes, right out of the gates, has Deshaun Watson. Then 2 weeks later on Monday Night Football, it's the latest meeting between the Chiefs and the Ravens, a.k.a. Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, the last two MVPs. It's a fight with Tom Brady, Week 12 in Tampa Bay. That's a late afternoon Sunday game. Drew Brees in New Orleans. The Chiefs have to go there. And then Matt Ryan, the Falcons quarterback, goes to Kansas City Week 16. So some great quarterback matchups on this Chiefs schedule. But you know what? I look at each of these games. Other than the trip to Baltimore, I feel like these are games that the Chiefs should win. Not that I'm predicting the outcomes of games to be played months from now. I don't know if you have noticed any of this on my Twitter feed. I have a very strong aversion to the concept of trying to figure out what's going to happen with games that aren't going to be played until November or December because a lot's going to change between now and then. But the Chiefs are good enough. They're good enough in the abstract that we should have confidence in them every week, just like you have confidence in the Bears every week.
Pick them. The other games on the Chiefs' schedule that we didn't even have up on that board because we don't know who the starting quarterback is, but the Chiefs will have 3 games against teams that drafted QB brethren in the first round. They have Week 2 and Week 17 against the Chargers, so we might see Justin Herbert against Patrick Mahomes. Sorry, I'm all screwed up. I haven't had my coffee yet. We also have Tua in Week 15 or 14, so you might see Patrick Mahomes versus the next class of quarterbacks in Tua and Justin Herbert.
Wait a minute, what's with not having the coffee yet? I'm surprised you haven't, you can be grinding the beans on the air. Grind the beans, do the French press. I'm pouring my coffee now. Whatever you want to do. All right.
That first 7 minutes of this show when I don't have my coffee ready, you're going to see my brain just activate, and it's going to be wild, the things that I say and how much of a hurt I put on Mike Florio in whatever debate we're going to get into.
I'd rather you not have the coffee, but I like the little waft of steam. It gives it a very kind of a cozy feel on a Friday morning. The steam is wafting up from your French press. Look, we always go into the season assuming that the Super Bowl champion is going to continue to be a great team, and there's no reason to think the Super Bowl champion won't be right back there. And even with the Patriots' recent dominance, where they keep showing up in the Super Bowl almost every year, there still hasn't been back-to-back champions since 2003, 2004 when the Patriots did it. So, chances are something's going to happen with the Chiefs at some point. That with all those great teams that are coming after them harder than ever, it's going to be harder for them to get back than it was for them to get there in the first place. I try to always remind myself of that if they do, we need to appreciate it if they do get back. We shouldn't get bored by, here are the Chiefs again. Getting back and winning it again is Herculean. And I would not expect that to happen. And if it does, we shouldn't be upset about it. We should celebrate it.
No, I don't think people would be bored with the Chiefs getting back to the Super Bowl. Knowing the average fan, I would say we have two Super Bowls. So he's already got another Super Bowl for Patrick Mahomes, and then maybe a return, so a third Super Bowl game for him before the general public decides they randomly hate Patrick Mahomes because he's too good. It's the Warriors effect. It happens happens in all sports. If a team gets good for too long, everyone turns and says, "This isn't fun anymore. We don't like you." So I think he's still got at least another Super Bowl win in him before that changes.
You could have said it's the Chicago Bulls effect. Why didn't you go with that?
Too.
Since it's
I'm trying to go recent. Well, yeah, I mean recent memory. Yeah.
I thought you just didn't want to pick on your Bulls.
Michael Jordan. No, everyone still loved Michael Jordan. Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, and that whole thing happened, and people kind of turned on him.
Yeah, I don't know that everyone still loves Michael Jordan, but that's a topic for a different day. I don't know. I think The Last Dance reveals more of the underbelly than maybe it should, and it also hints that there's a lot more there that they're not telling us about.
That's because you're the type of guy that would probably quit if he was Michael Jordan's teammate. You can't take that type of leadership and bullying.
All right, let's take it. I take it from you every Friday.
That's true. I'm the Michael Jordan of this show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.